I gotta admit, it's kind of surreal. We're standing right on the San Andreas Fault. And a few hours later, James Dean was pronounced dead at the hospital. All right, y'all, well, while we're looking for some of the older neighborhoods, let's talk about crime real quick. All right, this sounds good, but there's a caveat. Yeah, this is amazing. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Hollister, California, here in San Benito County. All right, let's get right into it. So why are we here? Hollister, along with 3 other communities here in this part of California, have at one time claimed to be the earthquake capital of the world. So we're going to be exploring all of those communities, Hollister being one. The other that I've been wanting to see for years, which is Parkfield, which is a good distance south of us, and the other is Coalinga. And I always wanted to go to Parkfield, so I've been reading about it. And while I was doing a little bit of research, I found out that, because I thought that was the only earthquake capital of the world, and then I found out, no, that's not true. All right, so what do all 3 of these communities have in common? By the way, Hollister being the largest, we'll go over the population statistics here in a moment. Then Coalinga, and then there's the least populated is Parkfield, which I think has a population, I think I read 18. Again, we'll go more into that later. But what do they all have in common? Well, the big thing, obviously, they're all in the state of California. They're all in somewhat the same geographic area. But most importantly, what they all have in common is they're all on the San Andreas Fault. There's the San Andreas Fault in this part of California. There's the Pacific Plate. If you're looking at plate tectonics, there's a Pacific Plate, which is basically going north, and then there's a North Atlantic Plate, which is, I think it's basically stationary. And so these communities are all located basically right along that fault line, which I'm going to show you a little bit. We're headed that way now. I'm going to go through downtown, then I'm going to take you there and show you a little bit of evidence of that. All right, so the city of Hollister, or at that time town, was founded in November of 1868 by William Hollister. What's interesting is, if I'm saying it correctly, the Olan Indians were here the earliest, and once the mission was built in San Juan Bautista in 1797, they were all basically relocated to the end of the mission system. And now we're not that far from the coast here in Hollister, so at one time this was originally part of Monterey County. And then basically what they did is, as the state became more populated, they broke up took a little piece of 3 different counties and to form a San Benito County. So that's where we're at today. If you remember, I've never actually watched the film, but Hollister did get its moment of Hollywood fame in the 1953 film The Wild One. Oh wow, look at this place. And for those of you who know a little bit of your motorcycling history, that movie was based on the July 4th motorcycle rally in 1947, where there basically a riot broke out. Now, with regard to the history of that rally, let's talk about that just briefly. What I didn't realize, because I actually was at one of those rallies many years ago and had a lot of fun. It was fascinating. But what I didn't realize is that that rally kind of has a tumultuous history with the city of Hollister. I guess there's always been, not always, but quite often, some conflict or good disagreements between the city and the event promoters. And I guess the city's wound up kind of carrying the tag on some of those. So anyway, make a really long story short, and again, because there were plenty of successful rallies, so I don't want to say it's all bad. Apparently these days there is no formal, at least from what I can gather, there's no formal rallies anymore. They're just they still have them, and I believe they still have them on July 4th. They're just basically not sanctioned by the city, but they're nevertheless successful rallies. I guess the size of them they're not as large as they once were, but again, they are successful rallies. All right, so Hollister, way back in 1880, had about 1,000 people, just over 1,000 people. Up by 1950, that had grown to almost 5,000. And then by 2000, it had jumped all the way up to 34,000 people. And these days, the latest statistic I can find is just pushing 42,000 folks. Now, this is, from what I could find, a lot of the people here in the Hollister, this has kind of become one of those Bay Area bedroom communities, from what I can find. And so that's definitely raised the home values in this area, and also the household incomes. Now, what I thought was interesting is the income from 1990 to 2000 was almost a 50% increase. And then from 2000 until 2020, it was almost an 80% increase in population. So again, I think that we can attribute that probably to that being a bedroom community for the Bay Area, people working in the Bay Area. Another statistic I thought interesting is that the median age is just over 33 years old, when the national average is almost 38. This looks like a pretty good sized employer, doesn't it? I'm really liking this industrial area. This is fun. All right, the population per household is about 3.5. Now, you ready for this one? The median household income, just under $102,000. Now, get this. Back in 2000, that's a 2023 estimate. Back in 2000, the median household income was about just under 81,000. So yeah, there's a story going on there. Again, I think we're seeing some of that Bay Area employment influence. By the way, the median household income for the U.S. is just over 55,000. Poverty rate. This is interesting. Poverty rate estimated in 2023 is about 10%. I'm really liking these little neighborhoods. These are great. Look at this old place. Wow, look at that. All right, we are driving, I think it's basically due north on Powell Street, and headed for Locust Avenue. Now, Hollister is well known by geologists, and it's for what, if I'm saying it correctly, it's a seismic creep. Basically, the Pacific plate, by the way, is on the left side of Powell. The North American plate is on the right side of Powell, at least in the direction we're driving. And geologists say that this place, in other words, we're not so much experiencing earthquakes periodically. We basically have what they call creep, so that Pacific plate is sliding past the North American plate on average about 7 millimeters a year. But as I'm going to show you here in a moment, that adds up. It definitely adds up. That housing cost here in Hollister are about 150% higher than the national average, which would contribute obviously to the cost of living here, which is overall about 98% more expensive than the national average. And there are some beautiful homes here. The hills to our left, that right there is following right along the fault line. Now this, it's called the Andreas Fault, which is part of the San Andreas Fault system. And basically it bisects the city going north to south. So the Andreas Fault, we're kind of right on top of it now. Pretty soon it'll be to the left of us. And we're going to head on down to 4th, 5th, and 6th Street. And I'll show you a little bit of evidence of this. This is actually fascinating stuff. Well, there it is. Look at that offset right there. And again, that's at a rate of on average, about 7 millimeters a year of what they're calling seismic creep. So I love that name. Look at the offset of that. That is amazing. That is amazing. Fascinating. Look how they've had to replace this this corner section here of concrete. You see a lot of that throughout the city. All right, well, the next street over, if you can see the elderly gentleman there closest to us, and then beyond them, there's a couple walking. Look at the offset of that sidewalk. There's just some beautiful homes here. Look at this. Now, what's interesting is some of these homes I was reading are literally sitting right on the fault line. And so what they've done is they've reinforced those homes to withstand that seismic creep we're talking about. And because of that, oh wow, look at this, what a beautiful place. And because of that, they can still live in these homes. That's amazing. Look at that, wow. There's some history there, huh? Wow, look at that. Wow, 4th Street in Hollister is busy. Of course, this is the original Highway 156 through town. You can imagine how busy it was back before they bypassed it. Look at this offset right here, man. This is crazy, isn't it? Right along 6th Street here, downtown in a park. And you can kind of see where that crack goes right through 5th Street. And then here's what I really want to show you though. Look at this. This is amazing. Look at the curb line here. Look at this. Makes you wonder how long did it take for that, get that big of a gap. And then look at this right here, y'all. Look at this. Look, isn't that is just amazing. Look at that. Look at that. And then the wall here, the retaining wall. Look at the offset of this. That's crazy. Crazy stuff. I love it. All this in front of a couple of beautiful homes, by the way. Look at these. Look at these. Yeah, this is amazing. I want to show you something else too. By the way, if you look over here across the street at that park, you see there's quite a elevation change over here. See, it's a little higher on the left, and then the terrain really drops down. All right, so the North American plate's on higher ground. That's why you have that little escarpment right there. And then here's the Pacific plate where it dips down. Now look behind us. Look at the elevation change here. See, we're kind of on a hill, on a mound here. And it makes you wonder is if this thing's kind of sliding along the North American plate, which is here. I'm sorry, the Pacific plate over here, North American plate there. As these things slide along, you just get these little mounds as they grind along each other. Yeah, this is good stuff, man. This is good stuff. All right, so how about that? On average, 7 millimeters a year, and it did all that. So, wow. That's just fascinating. That's cool stuff. All right, so imagine that living on the fault line, and you're able to reinforce your home so that you can continue living there. That's amazing. I definitely would like to find out more information on how you do that. So, all right, Hollister has been very good to us. It's like over-delivered. I like this town. It's a beautiful downtown. I love it here. We got a lot of territory to cover, so we're going to get on out of here. And our next location is about 4 or 5 miles south of us in a community called Pinos. We're not going to be there very long, but I do want to show that to you real quick. All right, so the Southern Pacific in about 1873, I think it was, built a rail line down to a community called Pinos. And that was a combination freight and passenger train. And now that Tres Pinos, that was the original station. Today that community is called Piscines, and we will be going through that. However, the Tres Pinos we're going through today is about 5 miles north of that, or about 4 miles south of where which is where we're headed now. That community, the reason I want to stop there today is there's just some interesting demographics. It's on the way, so we're just going to do a quick stop over there and see. Let me share some information with you. Some very nice homes off on our right. Look at these, all gated communities. Look off over there. Very nice homes. Very, very nice homes on decent sized properties. I'm not sure what the acreage of those is, but when I was looking at it on Google Earth, I want to say probably 3 to 5 acres maybe. I mean, look at these areas. Beautiful area. And this too, from what I can tell, is gated. Again, this is going to come into our story here in just a moment. Here we are in Tres Pinos. Kind of nice, man. It's a very small community. Obviously still gets a lot of traffic here. Definitely a lot of history here. It's been around for a while. I'm going to take you down some of the side streets here and just kind of show you around, because I really like some of these buildings. Here's a good example right here on the left. Look at this. Nice. Nice. The inn at Tres Pinos, that's established 1880. Been here for a while. But yeah, look at this. Wow, look at this. Nice. All right, median household income. You ready for this? $128,000. California is about $63,000, a little over 63. The U.S. is about 55,000. But here's the big one. Housing cost, 288% higher than the national average. That is crazy. California by itself is about 96% higher than the national average. But Tres Pinos, 288% higher. Now, do I think it's these homes here? Probably not, although there's some very nice homes here. I'm sure these cost a lot because of where they're located and they're close to the Bay Area. But those gated communities I was showing you, those are really, really nice. And I'm thinking that's probably what artificially drives up the cost of housing here in Tres Pinos. But fun place though. Still, beautiful homes. Poverty rate, about 2.5%. Yeah, which is considerable when the national average is about 15%. California, just a little higher than that. Crime is about 50% national average, and a little over 50% the California average. So, yeah, I'm sure there's a tie-in somewhere that with the median household income. But all right, let's move on. Fun town though, beautiful homes, cool little spot to stop. Back when I was doing my motorcycle days, we did. Oh, look at this building on the right. Look at that. Back in my motorcycling days, we would stop in there quite often, grab something to drink there, maybe get a little gas for the bikes. Yeah, fun area. know, it's we live in interesting times. I gotta get a photo of that barn back there. Clear Creek Management Area. I'm gonna tell you a little story about this in a moment. But look over here on the signage, guys. No OHV or off-highway vehicle. That includes motorcycles, quads, dune buggies, you name it. And I have a history with this area. Many years ago, oh wow, it's probably been, oh wow, at least 15. For about 6 years, my buddy and I would come up here and ride Clear Creek. These hills behind us here are phenomenal areas for off-roading, particularly dirt bikes. A lot of what we call single track, real narrow trails. Phenomenal area. Again, 6 years we rode this road here, we raced here. What makes this area, two things make this area very unique. One, that there were probably 300 miles of trails. Think about that, 300 miles of off-road trails. The other thing that makes the area unique is the story of the asbestos. This is Bureau of Land Management. Many times they shut it down because of asbestos dust. Now, apparently there are two types of asbestos. There's short fiber and long fiber. Clear Creek was the short fiber variety, which, from what I read many times, is not cancer causing. The long fiber is cancer causing. Now, let's go back a little farther. Steve McQueen, as some of you may know, he was a huge fan of motorcycles, just kind of a regular guy, but he rode here quite often, and ultimately he died of cancer. So of course the rumor mill was circulating that he died because he rode here at Clear Creek. But again, short fiber, so that's probably not the cause. So anyhow, just an interesting little tie-in, but wow. Yeah, wow, how things change. And I remember we definitely, you ride up here in the winter, not the summer, obviously because of the dust. But yeah, many times we'd cross here, not just with the dirt bikes, but also with our camper, because we'd stay the weekends. And yeah, we'd be going along this creek here, sometimes up to the door seals. So yeah, wow. Good times. Idria, the mining town that I keep saying we're going to get to. We will. These, what did they mine there? They mined mercury, and that mercury was actually sent up to the gold country, and that mercury was used it would basically hang on to the gold in the earth of the stone and actually help extract the gold from the gold ore from the rock. So there's a lot, when we would ride up here, there are a lot of those old mines, the mercury mines still here. Caves are still here. So anyway, we'd call this place, it's like riding in moon dirt. So a lot of the hills we rode were actually the tailings from those mines. Yeah, that was where the problem came with the dust, apparently. However, I'll tell you this, after a good rainstorm, the riding was phenomenal in the moon dirt. So yeah, cool stuff. All right, let's get down the road. We still got a ways to get to Coalinga. Okay, y'all, we're just outside of Coalinga. And these are the Chevron oil fields. What I read was that Chevron is a pretty big employer here in this area. Hopefully you can hear that. For such a big machine. It looks like some kind of a T-Rex or something, huh? It's actually pretty quiet. I don't know why I find these things so fascinating, but I do. And you know, it's interesting. These things have been around forever. And you know, it's an interesting operation because it just goes on forever, it seems like. Look at this over here. I mean, hopefully that's showing up on your screen. It's like these things just go on and on and on. Wow. It's like a forest of them out here. I would say there's still a lot of oil being pulled out of the ground. That is something. Okay, Coalinga, the name itself. Prior to the 20th century, the Southern Pacific had a rail line here, and of course back in those days everything was powered by steam, but the fuel to generate that steam was coal. So what Southern Pacific did is, I think it was 1888, they established a coaling station here to refuel the steam engines, and hence the name coaling. Now the A part of that's what's interesting too. This became Coaling Station A, hence the name Coalinga. Now if you notice the buildings here in downtown, I'm going to drive you down a few of these streets. These are relatively new. I mean, very modern buildings. Nice buildings. In fact, look at this, Coalinga Plaza. Now, why is Coalinga one of the three that's laying claim to the title of earthquake capital of the world? Well, in May of 1983, there was a magnitude 6.5 earthquake that occurred here, and it destroyed most of the downtown area. So that would explain why what we're seeing here are predominantly newer buildings. It's nice. It's very, very nice. But again, almost all the downtown here had to be rebuilt. So yeah, look at this. Interesting. Coalinga's primary employers are, of course, the oil fields, education, cannabis, which is interesting, and of course another big one is incarceration. There are at least two state correctional facilities very close by. And there's the high school building. Now, I mentioned earlier that incarceration is one of the big employers here. Oh, look at this old hotel. Look at this. Wow. The first new mental health facility built in the state of California in more than 50 years is right here in Coalinga. Another classic motels. Look at these. These look like they've been around pre-earthquake. All right, median age is just under 34 years old. The national is just under 40. I'm sorry, just under 38. State of California is 36, so the population a little bit younger here. The percent of the adult population that's married is about 43%, and of course the national average on that is about 55%. All right, median household income about $62,400. National average is just over $55,000. State of California, just under $64,000. Poverty rate's a little high, almost 19%. National average is 15%. State of California, just under 16%. All right, here's what I've been looking for: is an older neighborhood. Look at this place here. That's nice. Definitely some older homes. Oh, I got to get down that street. Cost of living here in Coalinga is about 11% higher than the national average. which is about 30% less than the cost of living in California itself. And that's interesting because the cost of housing here is only 2% more than the national average. But utilities may explain some of this, because utilities are about almost 60% higher than the national average. Oh, look at this old house. And that's interesting because utilities in California are only about 27% higher than the national average. All right, I got to duck out in this alley because here are some buildings that definitely predate the 1983 earthquake. Look at these. Oh, look at these old trucks in here. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's some money there if those are restored. Another pre-83 home. All right, and about 47% of the population is male. The other 53% is female. Let me find another street here. I need to get in some neighborhoods. All right, y'all. Well, while we're looking for some of the older neighborhoods, let's talk about crime real quick. All right, this sounds good, but there's a caveat. Crime is about 1,300 per 100,000. All right, that's just a little over the national average of 2,281. Oh, here we go. Found some old buildings. Look at these. Look at these. Wow. I'd love to know what these functioned as one time. This one here looks like it might still actually be in operation for something. All right, maybe we're getting some old neighborhoods now. We hope. Look at that old vending machine. All right, I mentioned there was a caveat to those crime statistics. Violent crime, 574. The national average is 364. So, overall crime is less than national average, but the violent crime, it's higher. Make of that what you want. All right, I found an old neighborhood. Look at this. Ooh, we had 3 homes burned side by side. Oh, that's terrible. Oh, wow. Look at that. 3 homes side by side. Look at this street, though. This is nice. Big wide street, an old established neighborhood. And looks like what we have is a really large city park down here. This is nice. So I was on my phone real quick trying to find if there are any areas we can go look at some of the earthquake damage from the 1983 quake. And they say there were over 5,000 aftershocks. And something like 800 something of those were magnitude 2.5 or greater. So that's impressive. And that earthquake was felt all the way from Los Angeles in Southern California to Lassen up in Northern California. So yeah, that was a big event. This is interesting. This older home here, it sits on kind of a triangle right between 3 streets, and it has that whole triangle to itself. You know, I'm kind of struck by how clean and quiet downtown Coalinga is. I mean, I know it's a city of only 17, maybe 18,000 people now. But wow, I found no evidence of the earthquake. Did a quick search while here, didn't see anything. So, but anyway, I guess I'm one of these guys that I'm a history nerd, so I'm always looking for that little remnant, right? But what is nice is how much of the old downtown residential area is still there. So that was nice to see. So all right, we are on our way now to our 3rd and final earthquake capital of the world, and that is Parkfield, and that's a good distance down here. We've been covering a lot of territory, so I think I looked at it on the map here. We're still about an hour away. So I have one little quick stop I'm going to show you between here and there. But for now, yeah, we got to make some time. So here we go. right, so September 30th, 1955. James Dean, he had just purchased a Porsche 550. He was headed from his home down in Southern California to a race in Salinas and wanted to break the car in. So I'm sure most of you already know the story. But you know, I've been by this site many times and had never been here. So this is where it happened. Coming down that mountain out there in the background. That was back then, it's Highway 46 today. Back then it was Highway 446. Coming to this intersection, my understanding is the intersection, I've not seen photos, but intersection was slightly different back then, more of a T. James Dean was coming this way towards us down the mountain. Another car headed towards Fresno was turning right where that truck is right there and basically turned right in front of him. A few hours later, James Dean was pronounced dead at the hospital. Curiously, his driver was actually thrown, I'm sorry, not his driver, his mechanic, who was right along with him, was thrown from the vehicle, but he lived. Interesting collection of things here. Love locks, a bra, radiator, which is interesting because his Porsche was air-cooled. The 550 on the sign here, I guess that's pertaining to his 550 Porsche. Yeah, anyway, we're driving right past this, and I thought I've got to stop and see it. I've never stopped to see this before. And the sunglasses. So this is the site, y'all. Right there. Where it all came to an end. So, you know, the curious thing to me was James Dean, he died at 24 years old and was considered one of the most significant people in Hollywood at the time. Yet he had only made 3 movies inside of his short 5-year career. And reading up on why he was so popular, I guess he was at that time an anti-establishment youth movement is about all I could find on why his popularity was so much. And it's curious to me because we were still within 10 years of the end of World War II and the Korean War had just ended. And also curious, check this out. Rebel Without a Cause, his first movie, was released while he was still alive. But his second movie, East of Eden, and his third and final movie, Giant, both of those were not released until after his death. So, yeah, that's curious. So, James Dean received an Academy Award for Best Actor in East of Eden, and then was nominated for Best Actor in Giant. But what was curious about that is that makes him the only person to ever receive 2 nominations for an Academy Award, posthumous or after death. So, yeah, fascinating. Part of the reason I wanted to stop back there is you notice that new construction that we went under. All of that area where we pulled over there and got out to look, that's all going to be bypassed. So I'm hoping they leave access to that. We will see. Although it looks like a lot of that stuff had been there for a while, so not really well trafficked. So we'll see. Hopefully that little site lives on. Now, look at this road here. When I was reading about Parkfield, they said that Parkfield, when you go to Parkfield, it's not like it's on the way anywhere. It's not. When you're going to Parkfield, it's because you want to go to Parkfield. I'm definitely picking up on that vibe right now. Look at this. Although, knock on wood, so far the road's in pretty good shape. Man, this is pretty back in here. Look at that old bridge. All right, let's cover a few things on our long journey out to Parkfield. Parkfield, I've read in a few places that the population is 18. So, yeah, there's that. Now, this place used to be known for, well, the original reason people came here was for prospecting and homesteading. And like so many areas or gold mining areas, for example, up in the Sierra Nevadas, the mines were exhausted, so they were spending more money operating the mine than what they were actually selling the product for. So that ended. Today it's ranchers and farmers, and there is, I guess, some small, people like me coming up to see the San Andreas Fault, I should say. So there is today a small tourism industry, people coming up here to ride horses on the ranches and so on and so forth. A lot of ranching and farming activity still takes place here. So that's about it. And a nod to what it's most famous for these days. Parkfield's motto is, be here when it happens. Now, we're going to see a creek bed up here in a moment. We'll cross it. That is the San Andreas Fault. It's mostly dry year-round, the creek bed, that is. And on the west side, which the side we're on is the Pacific Plate, on the right side is the North American Plate. So, sounds just like what we saw down in Hollister, right? Now, here's an interesting statistic. Since 1857, I believe it was, Parkfield has experienced a magnitude 6 or greater earthquake on average about every 22 years. Now, here's why I'm coming here, because Parkfield is the most closely observed earthquake zone in the world. Scientists are always measuring, looking for strain in the rock, trying to measure strain in the rocks, heat, so on and so forth. All right, so let me see if I remember this correctly. So in 2004, just north of Parkfield, they constructed a site. It's, San Andreas Fault. That's what it is, San Andreas Fault Observatory at depth. Now get this, and they completed this project. They bored a hole 2.5 miles into the earth, just so they could try and measure rock and heat, movement. Okay, so while drilling this hole, they found a layer that they call serpentinite. It's kind of it's almost like a fluid type layer of rock, I think it was. It's been crushed or liquefied. And where they found this was at the location. Oh, look at these old tanks. So when they found this serpentinite, it was at the location of the origins of the 2004 earthquake. Now this serpentinite, because it's soft, it makes real easy, almost like a lubricant between the rock layers, so it allows the earth to move along the fault line. Now you remember when we were in Hollister, we talked about the a seismic creep? Yeah, I love that term. So the seismic creep, that is also due to the presence of serpentinite. So wow, isn't that interesting? All right, and there it is, San Andreas Fault. We're now entering the North American Plate. Wow, how about that, y'all? How about that? So this is the San Andreas Fault. Wow, look at that. And there actually is a little bit of water there. Not quite dry yet. That is pretty. That's a pretty area. That's mighty pretty for a fault line, huh? Look at that. All right, so here it is, y'all. The North American Plate right here in front of us. And we spin around to the Pacific Plate, which is working its way north. Wow. Now I'm going to cross the bridge here and I want to show you something. I'm going to show you a little bit of evidence of that. This is I gotta admit, it's kind of surreal. We're standing right on the San Andreas Fault, where two of the earth plates meet and just kind of scrub on by each other, sometimes quite violently. Again, it's pretty out here. I'm glad I came this time of year and not late summer. All right, let's get across the bridge. There was something I didn't show you earlier. I came out here to get a few photos and I noticed that. Look at the offset. And again, this is going north in that direction. Look at the offset of the guardrail, but also look at the offset of the abutments. All right, y'all, we've come across the bridge. Turn this thing around. So now I'm looking right up into the sunlight. Let me get that sun behind this signage so you can see it. Hopefully that shows. And here's what I want to show you. Let me zoom in a little bit. Definitely see the curvature. Oh, you can really see it here. Look at this. Look at this guardrail here. Isn't that amazing? All right, let's go take a look in town real quick. Okay, so get this. I just read my notes real quick. The bridge abutments, original bridge was built in 1936, but since that bridge has been built, where the abutments have been placed, it has shifted. Now again, this is since 1936. It has shifted more than 5 feet. That is crazy, crazy. And get this, I missed this earlier, but they are calling that this is due to what they call a seismic creep, which is the same thing as what we had there in Hollister. So yeah, fascinating. So here it is, y'all, the most monitored or observed earthquake area in the world, right here in little old Parkfield. Our little community of Parkfield. Parkfield Lodge on the right, restaurant on the left. Yeah, what a nice little community, man. What an interesting place out in the middle of nowhere. Look at this. There it is, Parkfield Cafe. Earthquake capital of the world, Parkfield, California. Be here when it happens. Wow. What a cool place. And there it is, the U.S. Geologic Service, Science for a Changing World. Here is their Parkfield office. So there it is. It's official. Okay, everybody. Well, I think that's going to be the video. We've hit all of our points, as always. Thank you so much for tagging along. Definitely appreciate the views, the comments, and the support. If I've missed something in this video, got something wrong, whatever, please let us know in the comments below. I really appreciate when people give that input and make the corrections that need to be made, or give additional information that maybe I overlooked. So please, please share that information. Again, always appreciate it. And we will see you in the next video. All right.